So welcome to the 8-week challenge. We're here to support you over the next 8 weeks by sharing our experience and our financial knowledge so you get equipped to be able to take control of your financial future. At Newcastle Advisors, we're family owned and client focused. If you're looking for someone to sell you a product or tell you everything's okay, then we're probably not the right fit for you guys. We're dedicated to building, protecting, and preserving your wealth. We've got over 17 years experience, and we've seen everything to do with finance, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So nothing really surprises us when it comes to finances. However, when people talk to us about money and investing, it always comes back to one thing: mindset. Without having the right mindset, it's very difficult to start building your wealth and getting ahead. So it's really important when you're creating financial security or financial freedom, it's important to know where to really start. So with all our clients, we start with their money story. So this is really considering all the influences that you've had in your life. So whether that's what you've read, what TV you watch, what university you went to, what neighborhood you grew up in, what occupation you have, all that helps build your money story. But the most powerful influence on your money story is actually your parents and what you observed growing up. So this is interesting as well for when you've got partners as well. One partner might come from a different family that's had different experiences, and that really changes the money story from their side of things. And when you come together, it's very, very difficult to merge and come onto the one page with your different experiences. So understanding your story is really the first step in our journey. When we're growing up, they say the first 7 years is really when your money story starts. So that's the biggest impact of your life. So Al, with the little one, this is exactly what we're talking about, the legacy and what you learn. So they start listening, they start absorbing, and all the experiences they see. So it might even be when a monthly bill comes in, whether there's an argument between parents about how it gets paid, why it hasn't been paid, things like that. So kids pick up on that, even yourselves when you were younger, and you absorb that, and that's your money story. So that's what you experienced, and then that's the connotation you hold towards that experience moving forward. So this is when it gets a bit deeper, and I tend to go through with my clients and look at your family tree. So let's wind the clock back and go back to your grandparents and look at when did they grow up, where did they grow up, what was their experience with money? And then it flows through to your parents. So where did they grow up? What was the world like then? What were the messages your grandparents passed on to your parents? And then what relationship with money did your parents have? And also we've got to take this into account for your partner as well. So they've got completely different family story to you as well. So for example, my grandparents, they grew up in the Great Depression. So unemployment was 32%. So 1 in 3 people were unemployed. Eating was a bit different to today's standards. So you ate what was on the table or you went without. There was no picking and choosing. There was no gluten allergies, vegetarians, or things like that. It was eat what you got. However, this experience impacted my grandparents. So words started to creep in to their language that they used. So we can't afford that. We need to save for a rainy day. Money doesn't grow on trees. All these type of language they heard when they were growing up. So their first 7 years. Then World War II hit. So looking at things from a money perspective again, they're thinking, not again. We've got flashbacks from our childhood. where money was scarce, food was scarce, and we just had to wear the clothes we had on our back. So taking that into account, that scarcity mindset, when your parents come into it, your grandparents were taught this scarcity mindset. So it got passed on from your grandparents to your parents, and your parents then started to live through those experiences. So my parents were baby boomers, but they were affected from their parents through their experience in World War II and also the Great Depression. So their parents applied their filters and experiences and then gave evidence to that to my parents. So my parents lived through a bit more prosperous time than my grandparents, with house prices increasing, induction of superannuation, the government providing an age pension and a safety net, which they didn't to my grandparents. But that scarcity mindset was still lingering in the background from their childhood. So my parents took this experience and wanted to provide everything for my siblings and myself. So we were really the lucky generation. We didn't experience any wars, no depressions. We were pretty much spoon-fed our whole lives until the global financial crisis hit in 2008. And we saw our parents lose a large chunk of their retirement wealth. So that was probably the first rainy day that we actually got to experience as a generation. So our mindset's a little bit confused around, well, are we sitting in abundant where everything comes easy to us? Our parents spoon-fed us as such? Or do we take that view of the scarcity mentality that our parents passed on and our grandparents passed on? So this really came more to the forefront recently with the global financial crisis. So unemployment rose again. We saw that went from 5% up to 7, 8%. But some are saying it was a lot more. But the government chipped in then. They put that safety net again and helped support everyone that was unemployed. So now this generation is confused whether something goes wrong, the government's always going to jump in, or do we actually save for a rainy day? So if we get made redundant, like a lot of people did this time around, they've got the safety net there themselves. So this really confused mindset, I'd say, for this generation. So people tend to go one of two ways. They either build and achieve financial security by being spoon-fed and by having all these prosperous times, or on the flip side, because they've been spoon-fed, they see everything comes easy and the government's there to take care of them if anything happens. So they go out and they borrow, they buy cars, borrow for holidays, their toys, and then find themselves in financial trouble early on. So that's really the money story as such. And I do that with my clients. So we sit down and we go through their family history on both sides. So both partners. That really gives me a clear understanding of their thinking around money, investing, wealth, debt, how they spend their money, and it gives an understanding to their habits as well. So this leads into probably the next thing I see with a lot of clients is a financial thermostat. So we all have this kind of financial range with how much money comes in and how much money we're able to maintain. So unconsciously, you've set a range, the amount of money that you allow into your life. You may not know it, but looking at your bank accounts and looking at your investments, it will be there. Some people are really good at making money and always have cash flow coming into their lives. They make good money at their job or their business, but because they're not comfortable with having much money, they always find ways to get rid of it. So they find ways to spend it as such. So you can clearly see what financial thermostat is when you review someone's situation. So I see this all the time. So we had a recent example of a client that came in. He was 25, 26 years old. His parents had passed away and he received a large inheritance. So we put in place a plan where he was able to repay his mortgage within 10 years, become financially secure, which was building towards financial independence and financial freedom. However, his thermostat wasn't set at keeping this money. So he went out, he bought his cars, he bought boats, motorbikes, renovated the house, put a pool in. And recently he contacted me and his car broke down and they could no longer afford to fix it. So they had a larger mortgage than they did before. They spent all the money they had and now they're back living paycheck to paycheck. So his financial thermostat was set at 0. He thought he wasn't worthy enough to receive all that money. He didn't deserve it. So he went out and he spent everything. The other example we had recently was a 55-year-old couple. They've got a $600,000 house, $500,000 mortgage, but they've won the lotto twice. Not once, but twice. And they've still got a large mortgage. So looking at how much they won and how much they have, you kind of get an understanding of where their financial thermostat sits at. Everyone will know examples in their lives, whether it's friends or family, with similar stories. However, it's about understanding where your thermostat is set at and where your partner's is as well. Any questions, guys? Anyone? Questions? Hell no. Gary? Questions? Well, better unmute yourself.
No, it sounds pretty good so far.
Yep. Okay. Paul, any questions?
Taking it all in like a sponge.
Very good. Paul, any questions? Still not sure we can hear Paul. So next in the mindset, we really talk our beliefs around money and around investing, around wealth. So most beliefs we have in ourselves and the world are below our conscious awareness. So many of these beliefs are limiting and don't serve us. So imagine on a daily basis, your thoughts, actions, and behavior all being driven by your subconscious beliefs. So really this can get pretty deep. How in control of your life are you? That's really what it comes to. So imagine waking up every day and being driven subconsciously by beliefs that you don't really know you have. But things like money is the root of all evil. I don't deserve to be successful. I'm not worthy of a relationship. If I say what I think, I'll be judged. I'm scared of doing new things or meeting new people. All these types of things are beliefs that you have, self-limiting beliefs. So you probably won't have much money, be successful, have a relationship, voice your opinion, if these are some of your beliefs. The belief cycle outlines how our beliefs can drive our thoughts. So first we have a belief, gets driven by our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, which all then determine the result or our experience in life. So to put this into an example, so I'm not good in group situations. So what does that drive? Well, the action is I avoid talking to new people, spend most of my time on my own looking busy. And the experience I receive is no one talks to me, spend time on my own at the conference thinking no one's interested. So that really proves my belief. So you get your belief, you have your actions, which then give you the evidence or the experience to reconfirm your belief. So you get stuck in this cycle. Whereas on the converse side, you love meeting new people in group activities, You go to a conference, you introduce yourself to new people, you talk about great ideas. Your experience is you're talking to a lot of new people, you make some good connections, and some people offer you opportunity for your ideas. So this works with money and investing too. Exactly the same thing around beliefs. So we see here. So when we apply it to money, you're not good enough. So you miss out on a promotion. Your experience then reconfirms your belief that you're not good enough because you missed out. You don't deserve dollars. You don't deserve the money that's come into your life, whether it's an inheritance, whether it's a promotion, whether it's a bonus. You go out and you spend all that money then. So your bank account goes back to zero. And you go, I didn't deserve that money because I spent it all. So your experience then reconfirms that belief that, hey, I didn't deserve that money. Whereas if you look at it the opposite way, I am worthy, money's flowing in, your bank account's showing the money's flowing in, and your experience then reconfirms that you are worthy. So it's all about this mindset around what you believe and how that belief then produces what you experience. So if you're not sure what's happening, you need to just go to what's showing up in your life, and that will tell you exactly what your beliefs are. Any questions? Yep. Gary? No. The next real mindset that we go through is really cause and effect. We see this with a lot of people that come in, which is really saying, I'm at the effect of. So I can't do this because someone said this. So it's really, are you the cause in your life, or really you are the effect that things that are happening to you? So cause is really where you get to choose, whereas effect is no choice. You're not choosing. This happened to me. Someone hit me, the car broke down. Wasn't an opportunity to go get a new car with the insurance you had. You make a lot of excuses at effect. I can't do that. I don't have time. I don't have the money. I can't afford it. You're all at effect then, as opposed to the cause saying, how can I afford that? Where do I go to find that? How can I do that? What if I change my choice? So that's really the cause and effect that we see with a lot of people that come in, especially around retirement. They come in, say, I can't retire because I need to be 65 before I retire. I need X amount of money. And they haven't really made the choice or thought about their decision yet. Questions? I feel like I'm going a bit fast. It's all right. So the next mindset is whether we're looking at abundance or scarcity. So abundance means plenty, a lot of, many, unlimited. So that means you're very giving, receiving, unlimited, loving, caring. So how do you know if you're abundant? You're happy, you're at peace, you're comfortable, and you're secure. Whereas in direct contrast, we've got scarcity, which is lack of, not enough. It's rare, it's sparse. So the behavior that supports that is insecure, frugal, lonely, selfish. And how do you know if you're coming from a scarcity mindset? Well, you're worried, you're sad, you're dishonest, and you're uncomfortable. So this scarcity mindset really refers to seeing life as a piece of a pie. So if one person takes a piece of the pie out, well, then there's only so much left. We see this a lot at big corporations, like big banks and things like that, where there's 100 people going for one promotion. 99 people miss out on the promotion, and they think the whole world's ended because one person got the promotion. So it really instills that scarcity mentality within the workforce that they're creating. It's one thing to understand abundant or scarcity. It's another thing to understand where you sit when you make your decisions as well, and where you're coming from. So really understanding, if you do find yourself in the scarcity, well, how do we shift? How do we get out of that scarcity mentality to get us into the abundant space? So it's really about acknowledging everything that is, acknowledge what's happening in your life. You're choosing to create what's about to happen next. Oh. Thanks, Paul. So it's about, so there's other ways to do it. So focus on what you have. So that includes whether your job, family, things like that. Then surround yourself with people that have that abundant mindset. So that can really lift you up and teach you about it as well. And then with the scarcity mentality, there's always a winner and a loser. Being in an abundant space, we can create win-win situations. So looking at areas where you can create a win-win for you, and whether it's your employer, whether it's an employee, if you're self-employed, whether it's your wife, partner, that type of thing. And then incorporate gratitude. As I say, it's very difficult to be unhappy and sit in the scarcity mentality if you are showing gratitude. And then train your mind to recognize the possibilities. So scarcity mentality, you've got the blinkers on, you can only see little bits and pieces. Whereas recognizing that the world is abundant and there are so many opportunities and possibilities out there will help shift you and move you to the abundant mindset. I'm not going to dive deep into law of attraction, but again, it all comes down to negative thoughts. If you're thinking negative, you're going to experience negative. You've got positive thoughts, that'll lead to positive experiences for you. I won't go into too much detail as there's a couple more slides I wanted to cover in the next minute or two before we finish up. Probably one of my favorite posts I did on Instagram with this picture. So never talk bad about money. So never talk bad about money. Think of money like you think of people. So if you talk bad about someone, a friend or family member, they're more than likely not the person you want to hang around. So money's no different. You start talking bad about it, it's not going to be hanging around a lot in your life. So make sure you catch yourself when you're about to say something bad about money and switch up your vocab. For example, change "I can't afford that" to "how can I afford that?" It goes from a statement to a question. This question provokes different thinking patterns, and that's the start of it. So that starts you thinking about things. So I see this a lot with people as well when they come in and they start talking about money, and I just sit there and listen to the language that they're using. And you can see some of this come up, saying, "I can't afford to retire. I can't afford to move house. I can't afford to buy a new house. I can't afford to buy a new pram." All this type of language that they're using really gives me an understanding of where they're at and where we need to focus on before we get to the, I call the sexy stuff, which is the investing, the making and building your wealth. Any questions? Gary? Hold on, still on mute. No? Gotta take yourself off mute, Gary.
Okay, I'm here. It's not a question, it's more of a statement, I suppose. I thought I'd let you have a break from doing all the talking for a minute.
Perfect. Thanks, Gary.
What a lot of what you say is, it's great stuff. But I suppose my only comment will be some things in life are outside of your control. So, you don't always get that choice of what might come your way. And it's about, as you say, it's about mindset of how you deal with it and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, like everyone has different circles, you know, different things happen. Like, you know, we've moved countries and relocated and all that. So your whole financial aspect is different.
Very true. Very true. But it's what filters you put on those external events that happen to you.
Yeah, no, 100%. I just
So
thought
based on your life and experience, you're going to have all these different filters that you apply on what you've experienced in your life. Moving countries, all that type of thing, not easy. May have not been a great experience initially, not knowing too many people.
Well, it's as you said earlier, they're the GFC, like that hit us, you know. So we're a classic example of that, and restarting and exchange rates and all that. And you go, okay, well, you want to have a positive spin on things, but you know, you just got to think about how you manage that, I suppose.
100%. Very true. Very true.
I'll hand over to you now after that.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks for your input. Appreciate it. So one of the last models that I love is the be, do, have model. So it's who must I be? What must I do so that I can have what I want? So there's three different ways we can attack this model. So the victim always arranges their life in order of have, do, be. So they say, when I have enough time, money, and support, then I'll do the things I always wanted to do, and then I'll be happy and successful. So the victim is always waiting for those external events that Gary just mentioned, external things happening, to change before they can move ahead in life. The worker arranges their life in order of do, have, be. So they say, the more I do, so they're on the hamster wheel. The more I do, the more I'll have. The more I have, the happier I'll be. The problem is the more they do, the more there is still to do. So they always find more things to do. And then there's still more to have. So they're defined by what they do. They're defined by their work, their occupation. So they become driven, busy, tired. Then the more I have, the more there is to lose. So then they start to work harder again. So they're sitting on that hamster wheel, the worker, just doing. Whereas the winner arranges their life a bit differently. The be, do, have model. So they say, it is not I need to have before I can start, or what work do I need to do, but who do I need to be? So what kind of person would have access to the kind of outcomes that I want for my life? Then being that kind of person, what would I be doing then? And then having takes care of itself. So I see this a bit where people go for promotions. I even saw it at a previous role I was in. There was someone saying, oh, I want to get paid $120,000, but I'm not going to wear a tie until I get that manager role at $120,000. So just little things about dressing and acting the way you should for that particular role is the start. And the same applies to money in relation to this as well. Any more questions? Oh, perfect. So that was a quick 30 minutes, guys. So in summary, understand your money story. More importantly, understand your partner's money story as well. Determine where your financial thermostat is set at. When making financial decisions, think about the belief system. If you are at cause or effect, continue to build your abundant mindset and catch yourself when you slip into the scarcity mentality. Develop your be, do, have model. Think about it a little bit more. Are you a victim? Are you a worker? Or are you a winner? Think about what you want to have there. And finally, never talk bad about money. That's probably the easiest one to remember. If you do, it was it will start showing up. So you'll start seeing it. Next steps. So there's a bit of a homework. I've recorded this session. If you want to go back and look at it or share it with someone else, answer the questions on the website. So I'll send you an email tomorrow. There'll be some questions mainly about your money story and your partner's money story, where you can dive into it a bit deeper. Start writing it down, which gets you acknowledging your money story and your experiences. And then should you have any other questions, feel free to contact me via email. You've all got my number as well. Feel free to call me. And we continue to build next week, goal setting. So we start to get into more exciting things next week, goal setting and investing, home loans. So yeah, it starts to get a bit more exciting after next week. But I wanted to cover off this first because some of these belief systems and models hold a lot of people back in doing a lot of the other things that we do. So it's really just about broadening, opening up that education around this type of stuff to get a basic understanding, not the whole thing. You don't have to get it all today, but just a basic understanding of your money story, and we can go from there. Any questions, guys, to finish up? No. Thumbs up. Perfect. Thanks, guys. I'll send you an email. If you do have any additional questions, feel free to just reply and we can go from there. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.